Hello everyone. This is well, it's me. Um I'm Jackson. I'm the owner of the server, and today we're going to be going over the lore of the entirety of the Nations and Histories first Nations and History season. So, it's probably going to take me a while to release this video, but basically there are there's a lot of things that went on behind the scenes that we're not really given a lot of details um in the videos that have come up, but there's a lot of things that have been happening that we actually just haven't posted. There's just been a lot of storytelling and yeah. So I want to get this started off by going back to where this all started in uh the NUO building, the first NUO building. So this is the first one. This is probably seen this before. All the rules over here. The old NUO building just moved over to here. It was this was the first structure that was built on here, minus the taco truck over there. But it has very good points. So the first 5 people that joined the realm was myself, a nation called Taco, a nation called Japrica, the Lux Sovereignty, and we're just gonna call North Thug Shaker Central NTC from now on, just so I don't have to say those words together ever again. So those are the first 5 nations, and 3 characters in there are very important to this timeline. One of them was still alive technically at the end of the server. The 3 that we need to point out are um, Sam Club, which was the founder of the corporatocracy of NVIDIA, um, Faris Hikari, who was the sole leader of the Lux Sovereignty, and General Carrot Vegetable, who was the leader of Japrica for its glory days. So shortly after this, all 5 of those nations came together and created the NUO. They created this building and set up this section to be known as Spawn, or Spawn Point. More nations would soon rise after that. Um, Lots of them. There are lots of things, but there were lots of nations that came out after that. But one of the most important ones was the Wavecrest Authority. And that nation was led by Rin Galeheart, who would also go on to live basically through the entire life of the server. Um, but yeah, we will talk about them later. So the first war that ever broke out, which was one of the first that happened actually before I started recording videos, was the Basement War. Now, whenever I get to touring my own nation, I'll definitely show that. But basically, what happened was Taco, along with aid from Japrica, put a giant bomb under my base. And basically, what that did was it blew up. It didn't blow up anything important, but it made a made a point. So I declared war on Taco, and we fought in the battle of I think I called it Mira Crevice, the Battle of Mira Crevice, and I got absolutely destroyed because Taco brought something to the table that I'd never seen before called dog warfare, where they basically just have a bunch of dogs and send them after people. And normally against one person it will severely overwhelm them. Yeah. So after that, nothing really happened. As a direct consequence of me losing the war, a taco truck was set up in uh, a taco truck was set up at my base, and that was that. Um, so after this, more nations began to join the server, and sooner, and basically the main storyline basically went that this is whenever Jafrica became to be more prominent in the international community. This was where General Carrot began to make some bold claims and start calling out countries and start looking into expansionism, which is what Jafrica would essentially become known for. Um, Shortly after this, he tried to do some international breaking of laws, so the NUO was trying to stop him, and yet eventually he got tired of it. So he decided to literally sue me, which if everyone remembers correctly, he decided to sue me, and in that confrontation, uh, many of the old world came to be known here. And this is where I had to defend myself from uh, General Carrot's accusations of unfair admin usage, which was really funny for the first video because for some reason the camera person couldn't retrieve the camera file, so I just had to edit it into a Google slideshow, which was still funny, but you know. Um, so after Jeprica sued me, it was time for the Divine War, which is basically um I got my butt handed to me. Uh, Basically what happened there was Jeprica came in, and because of my alleged abuse of power, he came in and he obliterated me. Um, Sam Club, the leader of Nvidia back then, tried to tried to stop the um, tried to stop the invasion of Jefferson soldiers by taking a super strength drug called the uh, Divine Potion, I think it was called. And then he won, but then he overdosed, I think, on that drug that made him so powerful. But yeah, that was kind of that. Sam Club died after that, and so after that, Nvidia kind of hung in a limbo between two things. But yeah. So after the Divine War, a anomaly was discovered. The anomaly was discovered, which anyone who's been watching the past videos has seen that the anomaly sprouted out and started taking over everything. And by that, I really do mean everything, because after, well, actually, that's getting ahead of myself. But the anomaly will become important later. But for now, it was just a chunk of obsidian that Nvidian miners just found one day. Nothing too important at the time, but it would become important later. Um, and then a little while after the anomaly was found, this little section underneath the still incomplete NUO building was made. It was the auction house where the first auction was made for, I believe it was a mace. Or I think it was a heavy core or a mace. And they were doing auction stuff here. It was kind of a long video, but lots of diplomatic talks happened. And this was a bright thing because this was one of the first diplomatic meetings that wasn't war or war adjacent. Okay. After that, the first year passed, which, if you guys can't tell, 2,000 Minecraft days is a year in this server. And I think it's been the third year, but we weren't able to celebrate it, sadly. But and I believe that the original New Year's video got deleted for some reason. I don't know why, I don't know how, but something did happen that caused it to be deleted. But it was fun. It was very festive. I'm pretty sure that there's still some remnants around here of that festivities. Because over here, this part is where we took the big server selfie right here, and that was pretty fun. But yeah, that's kind of what happened there with the first year in celebration. After that, the AVM Axis was formed, and this was basically a trade organization, or so they thought. Just take out the red crossed out sign, and you have their like kind of banner. The AVM Axis basically just consisted of the Lux Sovereignty and the Wave Crest Authority, which we can also see their flag over here. This was the Wave Crest Authority. Now, during this time, a new power arose called the Dual Monarchy of the Mushroom Kingdom, which was led originally by Dr. Redstone, who would later also be the one to create the hospital at Spawn over there. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. Um, Around this time, another nation also joined it, called the Holy Theocracy of the Creator, which, after its Great Heresy, which was basically where their priest committed heresy, and so they didn't know who to trust. So they offered annexation to the dual monarchy, and that's whenever it became a dual monarchy, with Kevin He the First dying after his heretic event, and Kevin He the Second took his place. And that would lead to many different things, and uh the the theocratic, or I don't know what you want to call it, but the section of the dual monarchy that was once the theocracy became a industrial powerhouse, and basically was leading in everything in economics. But it wouldn't become that for a while, but that's what it would end up being. Um, After this, the Anomaly Containment Center was set up, or its early stages, where um, the international community would come together to try and uh, stop and or study the effects that the anomaly was having on the Nvidian and basically the world, and we're trying to figure out what it was and where it came from. Um, but during this, Project Unity was announced, and I have the flag. I do have the flag. This was whenever Japrica came to really be on the table. You see, Japrica had always been expansionist, but not to this extent. They started openly threatening nations left and right, which eventually led to the formation of Lucius Praesidia, which was a counterbalance to the Jabrican Axis led by the opposing side, who thought he was just a tyrant. This included primarily of three nations, which, if they hadn't been vandalized, right here would be the flag of the city-states of Embers, led by Connor Embers, a legendary warrior and, to put it frankly, one of the leading figures of the diplomatic world in the Nhovy, which is the name of the continent that we live on, if that wasn't already clear. Next up, ignore that, but the the Calamity Monarchy, or the Monarchy of Calamity, I should say, was their right hand man, or ally, very close ally, led by Kylo. And Kylo would have his own arc in a while, and then the third member was the Alchemists of Merlin, led by none other than Merlin himself. Merlin would become very important whenever um whenever he became important later, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So after Lucius Praesidia formed to counter Japrica, the Capital War raged, where a new leader had taken up arms, because basically after the turmoil of the Divine War, it sent Nvidia reeling from the stress. And basically, this led to a new militaristic leader taking charge count to try and reassure the people that this wouldn't happen again. But wouldn't you know it, it happened again. And this is because after Japrica had divinely declared war, or had after the Divine War, uh, Japrica had said that it wanted to have Nvidia as a colony, and Nvidia responded by saying, "No, you can't do that." So Wallace Martin met with General Carrot Vegetable, but negotiations quickly deteriorated and fast. This led to the Capital War, where the Japricans stormed in and basically took the entirety of the capital of Nvidia, Mira Ul. They shook the international community because this meant that not only had a nation technically just fallen, but it had fallen to one of the most authoritarian dictators on the planet. This led to a this led to a lot of tensions between the Lucius Praesidia, and after this, the Nvidian refugees would retreat from Nvidia itself and Mira Ul and go establish another state called the Nvidian Homefront in Wayward Island, where they would set up shop and prepare for a counteroffensive. This would also lead to Nvidia joining Lucius Praesidia and working on closer ties with the Lucius Praesidia. Shortly after this, however, the Grass Block War took place, and the Grass Block War took place, where after Nvidia had supposedly gotten defeated, Japrica set their sights on another target. This one was the nation of Grass Block, and Grass Block had their leader, um, Steve Man, I think they called him, was actually very good at keeping peace. They were very neutral. Lots of nations respected this nation for its infrastructure and its city, especially its city infrastructure. However, after Japrica decided to invade it, this led to an immediate response from the international community. Lucius Praesidia immediately said that if you invade the nation of Grassblock, we will not hesitate to declare war on you. And so, the Grassblock War started with Japrican forces invading the nation of Grassblock. Now, luckily, during the Battle of Grassblock, or I'm pretty sure their capital name was Grassville or Blockville, Grassblockville, who knows? But anyways, after that battle, or during that battle, the Lucius Praesidia showed up with their own forces to defend the nation of Grassblock, along with Nvidian forces. However, Nvidian forces mainly just reinforced the nation of Grassblock's forces. Um, and although the tide initially seemed in Japrica's favor, they ended up losing dramatically, and soon this led to um, some pretty harsh drawbacks in Japrica. Not only had they proven that they were not in fact invincible, but that they were vulnerable. So whenever uh, whenever Nvidia saw this, they saw this as their chance. And so going back from getting after the okay, basically after this has happened, um, the Nvidians decided to retake Miraul, and that started the construction war, where Nvidia tried twice and succeeded to retake their capital from Japrican forces, and soon reestablished the second corporatocracy of Nvidia. So in that battle, in the construction site of the Mega Mirror Mart, Carrot Vegetable died, or at least he got mortally wounded and would die in his hospital bed afterwards. This led to a new figurehead named Romeo Hemmingson to take over. He was less of an expansionist tyrant and more of a cold and calculative figurehead. He took the place of Carrot and decided to work in the shadows instead of openly trying to take over the world. Meanwhile, underneath NVIDIA, the anomaly had grown significantly, and this led to the NUO conducting more and more experiments on it, trying to figure out how it could be defeated or how it could be broken, so that way it wouldn't become a threat later. After that, Japrica decided to refocus its efforts on simply trying to uh, reorganize the international community and get more allies. So this led to a forceful takeover of the Stradivarian government, which led to a duel between Stradvaria, a relatively new nation, and nation's leaders against Romeo. And Romeo won. This led to Stradvaria joining the Japrican Axis against their will, which was bad news because Stradvaria was a very promising nation, although their leader had been driven mad previously. Which leads us to their first leader, River. Now, River was a human, and one key thing to note about Stradvaria is that they have two races there, one of humans and one of Farens, basically just furries, which, you know, but the this did not affect them at the time. However, after River was basically thrown and was basically forced to bite the curb, um, the people there were not very happy with the Japrican government, which led to the new Japrican alliance, which led to tensions in Stradvaria. River has a lot of story behind him, and it's honestly the entire history of Stradvaria could literally be in a book by itself. But we're not here to talk about just Stradvaria now, are we? Um, so this led, and soon after this, the second year passed, which led to another celebration. But since there were so many new players online at the same time, we literally couldn't celebrate because I was so laggy, and my recording software could barely function. So yeah, that was that was the whole thing, but it was it was necessary because we needed to celebrate it. Because why wouldn't we? But anyways, that is currently all the time I have for today. So there will be a part two to this video because we have currently talked about the first, basically half of the history. But I trust me, in the next year, it's going to be bonkers. There's going to be lots more to talk about during the next year of the lore. But yeah, I hope that you all enjoyed watching, and I will see you in the next one.